Hey, what's up?
Hey,
I'm Miles. And
I'm
that's
Jackson. I'm Jackson.
Yeah.
Yes, he's Miles and I'm Jackson. Welcome to the Fish Podcast. It's a Fish Podcast.
It's the Fish
Right,
Podcast.
right, Jackson?
Yeah, so I thought I was Miles.
I thought I was Jackson.
Wait.
Hello, Miles. Welcome to Fish Podcast.
Yeah, welcome to Fish Podcast, the podcast where we answer your questions.
Sometimes
Someone's questions. They kind of just appear.
No, I know them, but you don't.
Oh, okay.
I like withholding this information from
Gotcha.
you. That's besides the point.
Anyway, Anyways, let's just jump right into these questions.
Jump in.
You know? Yeah,
Jump in,
in just like a fish jumps into the water.
Okay, you don't need to be like that. we can just like say it normally.
Okay, fine.
Fair question.
Fine.
So this question?
Question one. Hello there, my beautiful boys. A friend recently told me that I'm developing a parasocial relationship with my favorite musical artist. What does this mean, and should I be worried? Well, thank you very much for asking. I happen to be an expert on parasocial relationships. Basically, a parasocial relationship is a kind of one-sided relationship where someone kind of interprets some kind of connection between them and some kind of an idol or like a public figure, a fictional character, or in this case, a musical artist. According to University of Texas, the term was coined in the 1950s by sociologist Donald Horton and his psychiatrist co-author Richard Wall, and it was used to describe how listeners were kind of drawn into an illusion of intimacy by fireside radio chats. To answer your question about whether you should be worried or not, in my opinion, I would be cautious. Parasocial relationships can become pretty harmful if they develop into kind of a perceived entitlement of that artist's life. And oftentimes, when they do turn into that, fans will kind of demand some unrealistic expectations, complete transparency, and then oftentimes they want control over that person's life. And it can lead into some pretty nasty side effects.
Yes, however, I will say for you, it's, of course, yeah, you want to be, like, cautious about this stuff. No, it's not good. But also, like, you have to be aware that, like, parasocial relationships, that's, like, the nature of how media is consumed by people. You need to form a relationship with it. A lot of times, communities, like, around media, like, how things get popular is due to parasocial relationships. You need to be able to, like, form a relationship, connect with the media you consume. However, yeah, of course, to your point, it's like, yes, you have to be, like, wary of how you do it, because it can go wrong, which is what we're going to talk about in this thing, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that. It can be a great thing when it's contained. During the COVID-19 pandemic specifically, parasocial relationships became much more common because people were obviously isolated due to lockdown and quarantine. And it was just, everyone was really lonely, and having an idol, someone to look up to, someone that you can kind of feel like a connection to, that was it was great. It provided you with some emotional comfort, inspiration, and then it kind of closed that void of social connection that humans need to exist. But with that, even though it can be really helpful to someone's mental health, if it goes too far and it turns into that perceived entitlement, it can absolutely wreck someone's mental wellness. And that's oftentimes where the negative aspects tend to first express themselves, is psychologically. Some really good examples I've been able to find have been one from my favorite artist, Will Wood. He created a movie called Slasher Towards Branson last year. And it basically detailed his rise to fame and how he kind of dealt with people kind of trying to take control of his life. He kind of gained a really sudden fame from a song called I Me Myself, and he gained more fame than he ever thought was possible for him. And his fans kind of went a bit crazy and kind of started trying to dictate his life, trying to like imagine him as different people to kind of conform to their own personal headcanons. He received some like threatening messages saying he wasn't entitled to a personal life. He received some calls in the middle of the night asking to speak to his dad, and then there were several very, very explicit sexual comments made about him online. And all of this kind of contributed to some identity crises he went through, severe drug abuse, and then also kind of a longing to desert the life that he has right now and kind of run away and start fresh.
Yeah, so one thing though is that like a lot of independent artists like can use parasocial relationships like help build like better, gooder communities for themselves. It's like certainly a way to grow, and like certainly it's beneficial for the artist, of course, because it's like source of like income,
Yeah. That's a great point. The rise of social media has really helped a lot of more independent artists grow their influence, but again, if parasocial relationships aren't kept under wraps, they can grow out of hand really, really quickly. And another way they can do that is toxic fan communities. So a lot of fans will actually start obsessing over their artists to like an unhealthy degree. And Eminem actually made a song about this called Stan in 2000. And it meshes together the terms stalker and fan to describe how a fan's obsession over an artist can turn into a form of aggression in which they're like gatekeeping new fans, organizing takedowns on opposing artists, justifying like harmful behavior that they're from their artists, and then they often also attack their own favorite artists for any significant changes they might make. A great example of this is Kanye West. As you may know, in the past couple of years, Kanye has said some pretty racist and often anti-Semitic stuff online, and a lot of his fans have a loyalty to him that has caused them to start defending him and like justify that abhorrent behavior, which obviously it's not okay.
Yeah, no good.
Yeah,
ain't no good.
No
siree, no.
You like Kanye
And
West.
so, yeah, but another example adding on to that, much more prominent example I'd say is the K-pop industry. I'd probably say is the most prominent example of toxic communities. Is a very, very commercialized industry, and it actually makes up about 2 to 3% of South Korea's economy. Due to this, many artists of many parents in Korea often put their kids through K-pop schooling to kind of in hopes of getting them to that level of fame, that level of stardom, so that they can have like cushy, decent lives.
Oh, it's like Jeanette encouraging their kids on like mass scale, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
And these schools, according to an article titled "The Dark Side of K-Pop," they often put kids as young as 12 through auditions for record labels, and if they are signed on to that record label, they are expected to maintain like perfect public images. Like, they need to look perfect, they need to act perfect, they need to follow exactly what their fans want, what their fans and their record label wants from them. They do this via like plastic surgery, staying away from relationships, and then constantly putting on that happy mask and like that performative performative behavior. And slip-ups can cause them to lose their deals with their record labels and can throw them into extreme poverty. And a lot of this this constant monitoring and these high expectations, they contribute to extremely high rates of anxiety and suicide within the K-pop industry. And like, not only is it causing harm to artists, it's also causing harm to the fans who are following these artists, because they are encouraged to kind of develop a cult-like admiration where they're following every single movement that this artist makes, every piece of merchandise, every piece of news that comes out. They're expected to just kind of devote their lives to basically worshiping these groups, or these people. And like, obviously, trying to get away from that more serious note about suicide, onto a more silly note.
Amazing transition.
The expected devotion of fans often results in people who aren't as serious getting kind of like verbally abused by the fans. A really funny example, in my opinion, is the McDonald's BTS meal from a couple years ago. They released it, and obviously every BTS fan in the world was going crazy for it. They all wanted it. They were collecting boxes and sauce cups, and it was just weird. And those people who weren't fans but just wanted to try the meal, they were getting verbally abused online for supposedly taking that experience away from actual BTS fans. And I just think it's silly that they're devoting that much of their life to these people that they will never personally know.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah. So, with that, yes, the parasocial relationships, they can be great things for both fans and artists to kind of enter great communities or build their influence and stuff. But if they go too far, they cause harm for both parties, like financially, mentally, and even physically, if it comes down to suicide. One final thing before we close up for this question is parasocial relationships also can result in some real world harm, as I explained briefly in the K-pop section when I was talking about suicides in that industry. Many like in the most severe of cases, parasocial relationships can turn into physical altercations between fans and artists, in which one or both parties get severely injured or possibly even killed. There are many artists that have been murdered or injured by their fans. Some of the most notable examples are John Lennon, Dimebag Darrell from Pantera, and George Harrison, who is the only one of those three that actually survived his interaction with his fan, albeit with severe injuries. Like with Lennon's situation, the fan that killed him was, like, he considered himself to be one of the biggest Beatles fans ever. But he had recently converted to Christianity and was developing new morals and stuff. And based on some things that Lennon had said recently at the time about him not exactly caring much for the Beatles, or saying that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus, I believe. They kind of made that guy angry, and so he took action against Lennon and shot him in the back, I believe 3 times, killing him. And one more modern example of these very, very unfortunate scenarios is Tyler, the Creator's 2024 single Noid, which kind of explains a paranoia Tyler had felt due to the recent murder of one of his friends and fellow musical artists, fellow rap artist, Pop Smoke. he used the lines, "I can't even buy a home in private. Home invasion's got my brothers dying. Notice every car that's driving by. I think my neighbors want me dead." And these all reference Pop Smoke's murder, in which he was 3 fans broke into his house and robbed him and murdered him after he had accidentally released his new address online. Tyler had just bought a new mansion in the same area, and he was worried about the same thing happening, and so he was locking himself inside. He didn't feel safe going out in public. And these examples just kind of show how severe parasocial relationships can become if they are kept out of check. But with that, dear viewer, I say it's not too... It doesn't sound like it's too big of a problem right now, but if you notice some of these things start to happen, you need to seek help from others via therapy, friends. You need to try and realize that no matter what you're doing or what your favorite artist is doing, they won't really affect each other in any way. You got to realize that person is a human, not a god, not something to be worshipped. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, to our next question. Hello, my friends. Who would win in a fight? A billion lions or one of every Pokemon?